my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars news update. We are now just a matter of hours away from Chapter 6 of the Book of Boba Fett, and after last week's incredible episode, I think it's safe to say we're all pumped. Now we have so much to go through. We're going to be talking about Grogu, Boba Fett the Godfather, and so much more. So no more jibber jabber, let's just dive straight into it. So my dear Mandalorians, as we venture into the last 2 episodes of the show, the really exciting thing is that we're going in completely blind. Up until now we've had rumours and leaks for more or less every single episode, but not for the last 2 chapters. Chapters 6 and 7 are a complete mystery, and that means, in a really great way, they might pull a sneaky on us and give us something completely unforeseen and completely unexpected. After all, Ming-Na Wen said, by the end of the season, we're going to go back and look at those earlier episodes in a completely different light. Now, the only thing we've really had for Chapter 6 is tons of speculation that Luke Skywalker and Grogu might appear. And while I will say I do expect that to be the case, we always have to consider the possibility that they won't, and maybe Jon Favreau is saving that reunion between Din and Grogu for the Mandalorian Season 3. As we saw last week, Mando promised Fennec that once he's paid a visit to his son, he's going to help Boba with the Pykes. But what they might do is cut to after he's already given the chainmail to Grogu and save that moment and whatever happens in it for the Mandalorian Season 3. I really hope that's not the case and we do in fact see our favourite little green friend, alongside of course, Master Skywalker. All that we do know for certain is that Dave Filoni contributed to the writing of Chapter 6 alongside Jon Favreau, who's written every other episode of this show. And it is expected that Dave Filoni directed this one as well. Now, given the magnitude of the fact that the so-called Star Wars Dream Duo are responsible for this next episode, I really hesitate to put forward any kind of meaningful speculation or even any predictions. A few of you have been asking me what I think about certain theories, but the truth is, regardless of what we think we might expect, there is so much room for the unknown and so much room for surprise, but I'm sure by tomorrow, we're going to have so much to talk about. I mean, just look at last week. Star Wars was alive and trending. It was truly electric. I hope they can blow this one out of the park, and as we know, even reported by big outlets, this next upcoming episode is the most anticipated of the entire season. So I'm not going to predict anything concrete, but what I will say is that in terms of cameos and big character appearances, odds are Dave Filoni is going to introduce someone or multiple characters from his animated shows. We've spoken in depth about the likes of Cad Bane or Embo, but the reality is the possibilities are truly endless. And I want to reiterate something that I said right at the start of this series. I just want the Book of Boba Fett to tell the story it needs to and unfold before our very eyes without too many specific hopes, expectations and wishes. Having said that, the plot does need to be solid for these final 2, and it needs to wrap up a lot of story elements from the previous episodes, or at the very least tease that there is going to be a second season to do so. And after the absolute treats that Bryce Dallas Howard gave us last week, we can only hope it gets better and better. Now, in terms of the storyline itself, it's looking very likely that Boba and Fennec are going to recruit some more muscle. I don't think Black Qi'ra and Din Djarin are enough, and we're very likely to see some more allies. As we know, credits are not an issue, and Boba can really get anyone he wants. And I suppose this is where the big question mark plays in. Who are they going to get? I'm sure it's going to be a treat. Now, as I said, I'm hoping Chapter 6 really begins to tie together threads of the plot from earlier episodes, notably the Pykes Syndicate, and maybe our heroes finding out who is working on their side. How do they have so much gall to use Tatooine as the base of their spice operations? Boba is the Daimyo, and while the first few episodes did a lot to further his character development, I'm hoping they build upon this and show us more of his courageous side in the present day. I mean, Boba in this series is really supposed to be a Godfather figure, and there have been so many references to this, and now that he's going to recruit even more muscle, we need to see that badass, domineering persona where he gets the job done at the snap of his fingers in a much more honourable way than getting his own hands dirty. And this will show us that he's truly moved on from the days where he himself was a bounty hunter. And in a great way, Chapter 4 gave us great insight into Boba's mind, and we learned that even before his fall into the Sarlacc pit, he was considering leaving bounty hunting. He was done working for people who could get him killed. And now a reborn Boba cares about making a difference on Tatooine through respect and not through fear. But in light of what he's going to be up against, I think there's a very strong argument to be made for instilling dread in the Pykes and any other syndicate who thinks that they can easily gain a foothold on Tatooine. Something else this show is undoubtedly leading up to is Boba riding the Rancor. The Rancor keeper, Danny Trejo's character, has put a lot of work into training the gift that was given to Boba by the Hutts, and it's Boba's wish to be able to ride it. Maybe the reason we didn't see him at all in Chapter 5 is that he was perfecting his riding skills. And be honest guys, we all want to see that on screen, and with the capabilities of the volume in 2022, that will be nothing short of freaking eye candy. Besides, he has ridden creatures 10 times its size. Now another character who we simply cannot forget about is Fennec Shand, and the importance of a character in these final 2 episodes. I want to bring up something from Chapter 4 that seemingly went over a lot of people's heads. When Boba emerges from the Bacta pod and the droid tells him that he's done healing, Fennec walks in and tells him, but what about the scars on the inside? And I think that's a massive hint for what's to come, and I'm really hoping that gets addressed by the end of this season, maybe even teasing the plot of a second season if we get one. Now these internal scars are all to do with the loss of his father Django. Think back to those Kamino and Geonosis flashbacks. Well, they never addressed them further, they were never brought full circle, and their reason for being there other than nostalgia for fans and showing us Boba's trauma was never explained. Some say that it did come full circle with the theme of water during the scene where he gets the branch to form his gaffy stick, but I think wholeheartedly there is more to it than that, and Temuera Morrison has repeatedly spoken about Boba's anger towards a certain individual after all these years, and about the sadness that he still feels towards the loss of his father. Now I'm not going to put forward any prediction of how they could address this, but it's something I hope Rodriguez and Favreau thought about when planning the show. I doubt there's much time to address this subplot in this first season, but something could definitely happen right at the end to tease it for a possible season 2. And if you've been watching my channel for long enough, then you know some of the ideas I've put forward in the past. But looking ahead to tomorrow, I love how we're going in without a single clue of how it's going to play out. But there are certainly so many possibilities. I will of course be doing my full review and episode breakdown, and as always my dear friends, make sure to look out for that tomorrow. And I really can't bloody believe we're literally just 1 week away from the show ending. It's been such a ride so far, let's hope these final 2 are bangers. I also want to say my dear friends, if you're not a patron and you want more videos from me that are not found here on YouTube, I have a library of over 100 videos that are not found here on YouTube, and recently we did an exclusive stream discussing how the Book of Boba Fett might end, so if you're interested, the link is down below. But finally my dear friends, I want to talk about something very unrelated. This year marks the 25th anniversary of the Star Wars Special Editions, easily one of the most controversial elements of this fandom, as George Lucas actively seek to make his original trilogy better, but in many ways at the dismay of many fans. So here's a great article from Gizmodo, a reminder of why George Lucas loved the Star Wars Special Editions. Even after it became the highest grossing movie of all time, George Lucas still was not completely satisfied with Star Wars. And that's why in 1997, 20 years after A New Hope, he created the Special Editions. And here is the quote from Entertainment Tonight, all the way back in 1997. George said, "My original motivation in going back to the film and working on it is that unlike books or symphonies, films are never finished. They're abandoned or yanked away from you. And at some point somebody says, that's enough, we're putting it in theaters, and you say, but it's not done. And they say that you'll be doing this for 100 years if we let you keep going at it." And in George Lucas's mind, in 1997 there was much more technology that wasn't available in the 70s. So for him, it was perfecting his vision for the original Star Wars, going back and tinkering with a few things. And admittedly, there are a few decisions that were a bit odd, very unpopular with fans, but conversely, some decisions made the film's visuals much more impressive for the time. But if you're well versed in the history of Star Wars, then you'll know the special editions were far from the last time that George Lucas would tinker with Star Wars before selling it to Disney. We had the 2004 DVD release of the original trilogy, which in and of itself came with more changes, the 2006 limited edition discs, and of course the 2011 Blu-rays. And throughout all of this, George Lucas made it harder and harder to get a hold of the original theatrical releases. In fact, it's impossible. Fans have tried to despecialize the original films, but in terms of any official capacity, it's in the Lucasfilm archives and not available to the public. I think the history of all of this is truly fascinating, and as I say, this year we mark the 25th anniversary of the special editions, and in some way the effects and CGI were a way to prepare fans for what was coming 2 years later in 1999 with the release of The Phantom Menace. You could truly make an entire documentary about all of this, but I hope you found this condensed version to be quite interesting. But otherwise, my dear friends, that brings us to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up. Let me know in the comments down below how excited excited you are for the Book of Boba Fett Chapter 6, and what direction do you think the show's gonna take with just 2 episodes to go. I'm wishing you all an amazing Tuesday. May the Force be with you. As I say, I'll catch you in tomorrow's review and breakdown video, but until the next one, I'm Star Wars Meg. Have a good one.